everyone, welcome back. And if you're new here, my name is Kelly and I live in an apartment here in Northern Maryland with my husband and my dog Sylvie. And today we're going to do our October hydroponic garden tour. So as you can see behind me, I have two hydroponic systems and I mostly grow tomatoes, cucumbers, and in this one over here, mostly beans, lettuce, and a few herbs, among other things that I sometimes experiment with. I also have a second smaller garden that I grow mostly basil in because I love basil and basil gets huge. So it kind of lives over in the kitchen. So you probably saw me harvesting some of my food today. So I've already eaten, I think, like 4 or 5 cucumbers off that plant. And here's what I have so far. Only 5 today. There's another one up there, but it's not quite ready. So we'll talk about the cucumbers in a minute, but this cucumber, since I switched back to my old nutrients, has really started pumping out the cucumbers. It was a little slow to start, so that's probably why it's not as productive as some of the other cucumbers I had, but it's still really great and it's super easy to grow. You also saw me harvesting some Red Robin cherry tomatoes. So this is my favorite, absolute favorite variety of dwarf tomato for cherry tomatoes that will grow in a hydroponic system. I've tried a lot of varieties before. I do have a tomato video that you're welcome to go check out where I'm talking about varieties I want to try, and that'll be important in a minute because I actually have 3 of those varieties in here, one of which is actually right here. It almost looks exactly like the Red Robin, but I literally have never tried it before. I'm not just saying that. I actually waited to try it on the video. So we're actually going to try it today. I have a distinct feeling it's going to taste exactly the same as my Red Robins. And I'll show you a comparison as well. But we'll see how that goes. I also have a mini slicer tomato called the puck tomato, P-U-C-K. But it's not ready yet. So, and it kind of looks terrible because, again, I had a nutrient issue, which I'll talk about in a minute. The other harvest that I could technically have is my cilantro, which we'll look at in a minute. I'm not going to cut it out because I like to cut it fresh. And we're going to be making a lot of guacamole and tacos later because my cilantro is a literal forest. So, all right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you guys a quick overview of what the 2 gardens look like, and then we're going to start our tour. And I think actually today we'll start with what I call the sprout garden, which that's just because that's the name of the nutrient for rye, but I don't use rye nutrients. And that's like lettuce and non-flowering plants except for beans. My lettuce looks a little small, and I think it's because my cilantro is sucking up all the nutrients. And my AC's been a little low because I've been busy, but we'll start with that garden first, so it's back here. And that one will be pretty quick because there's not a ton to see in there. And then we'll talk about the tomato and cucumber garden and try the new Rosy Finch cherry tomato. Okay, everybody, so as you can see, my cilantro has gone absolutely wild. So if I can grab it from the last video, I want to show you guys a picture of what this cilantro used to look like before I switched back to my nutrients. So I switched to a liquid general hydroponics nutrient, and I wanted to do that because the powder stuff, so the dry nutrients I use, do leave a lot of sedimentation in the system. However, I wasn't having much luck with mixing the 3 separate bottles. Really tired when I get home. I'm a teacher, really busy, so I just need something a little easier. So I went back to my dry nutrients, plus I wasn't happy with how my plants looked. Again, probably because I wasn't mixing it correctly. And then, like, everything just exploded. So it pretty much just showed me that I need to just stick with the dry, and if I get sedimentation in the system, I get sedimentation in the system. Although I will say I have a filter sock, and I'm going to do a video on modifications I've done to my garden, and that filter sock has actually kept the sedimentation really low. So maybe that's kind of the trick. I need to buy some new ones, though. All right, so clearly the cilantro is just absolutely insane. In fact, I don't even know if it's bolting yet. Let's see. When I say bolting, what I mean is there's usually a thicker stem that will come up in the center of a plant like cilantro, and it'll start to flower and go to seed, which is where you get coriander. But I don't even see a bolt. So we're just going to do our best with this absolute jungle of cilantro. Cilantro can also be really difficult to germinate. I actually have trouble not really getting it to germinate, but getting it to grow in the pod, so the seed pod, which is like in one of these things, without it going full algae and getting really gross. So I actually do need to re-germinate one, so I have one, because it is a slow grower at the beginning. I also have a basil up here too, so I'm going to move you guys a little bit so you can see. So I have a little basil here. This basil will actually be moved over to my mini rice garden, the tabletop personal version, whatever you want to call it. So that one will go over there because it gets so big that I don't want to keep it in the system. Although technically, since I don't have anything else growing up here, I could actually leave it. I am going to move it though and probably start another one, just so I have like a continuous supply of basil. And then I actually have some green onions here, but I'm probably just going to throw these away. I actually cut them off. They'll actually regrow, but they're really not doing much. So I'm actually going to take them out right now. So, and the roots don't look great either because I think it's just done. Okay, actually, let me check the roots of that basil. Yeah, looks really nice. So the other ones are kind of slimy from that onion, so I think it just wasn't making it. And I had already harvested it, so it didn't really matter. I just wanted to see if it would regrow. But yeah, really nice roots. You don't want any slime. You want bright white. You don't want any yellowing. You don't want to see anything like a white powder, although sometimes that can be your nutrients. But yeah, these look great. And I can see a little sedimentation here, but it's really not that bad. Okay, so actually, now that I took out that onion, I put a new one in. So I do have a new one going right here. There's only two in here, unfortunately, but that's okay. I have a hard time getting green onions sometimes to sprout in these little pods with the little hole. There's not a lot of space. Okay, the other plant that you might have seen in the nursery that was right here is this guy. Well, you didn't see it. You saw the nursery. You saw the plant. This is miner's lettuce, and when I was growing in my other nutrients, it just didn't do very well. It actually got really bitter really fast. It already has a bitter undertone, but it wasn't growing the actual edible portion of it that I like. I mean, it's all edible, but the part that you actually would put in like a salad. So I restarted one. So we're going to put that one right back there. Now I move this nursery out of the way. Okay, so there we go. So anyway, that's my cilantro. Not much to say about it. I know some people don't like cilantro. We really do like to have cilantro available, but it's one of those things that it grows really fast, and I have a really hard time keeping it for very long before it bolts. I do have a slow bolting variety, which means it takes longer for that stem to come up with the flowers. But yeah, so worst case, if we don't need it all, it's going to go in the composter, so it's fine. All right, so let's take a peek at the lettuce and the beans really quick, and then we'll move over to the tomatoes. Okay, so here's my lettuce shelf, which there isn't much going on here. Usually with this romaine, it gets much bigger, but I really have a feeling that this craziness is sucking up all the nutrients because this is the where the nutrients come in. This is where the tubing is. So I really need to get rid of one of these because it's too much. Now this here is kind of like a butter lettuce, and I believe this came out of a mix, and this is the only one that grew because unless this is something else, I actually thought I was growing my red arrowhead, but I wonder if they sent me the wrong seed or something because this is not red arrowhead lettuce. I don't know what that is, and it has happened before where rice sends the wrong seeds, and there are things. I don't normally buy rice seeds, but the red arrowhead has been hard for me to find. This is not what I wanted. I don't even know what it tastes like. That'll be interesting. Maybe we'll taste it on camera when we look at the tomato, but that's not what I want. This is what I want, but it usually gets much bigger than this. Like it'll get up here. I need to check my pH and my EC because I've been a little bit behind on that. This is our Parasilane Costs romaine, best romaine ever. It'll definitely grow that romaine head here. It's just really small right now. these little guys are actually these lettuce little gems from Baker Creek. And they get obviously bigger than this, but they're mini romaines. And they're actually really tasty. Obviously they're not ready yet, but these guys they taste really good. They have, I don't know how to describe it. There's like no bitterness associated with these. They're almost like, you know that lettuce you get in that plastic container in the grocery store? That big ball of lettuce in the plastic thing with the roots attached? It tastes like that with a romaine. Love it. It's so good. So I actually probably am going to start another one for here and then replace that. And I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I'll eat it and see if I like it. Here's that miner's lettuce. I thought I'd just show you what it looks like. So this is the part that I'm talking about that you can eat. The part that was growing that wasn't necessarily something you want to eat is like these little tops here, but bigger. It wasn't growing these like this shape here. And again, I think it was just because of my nutrients. So anyway, that's what we have going on here. Oh, and by the way, the miner's lettuce is native to the Pacific Northwest. I don't know if it's native anywhere else. I just know it's from there because I'm from there and I used to find this in the wild, eat in the wild, which is actually really cool. Okay, down here is just a whole shelf of beans. So these are my favorite green beans, Muscat green beans. They're looking pretty good. They are a little deficient in nitrogen. If you look closely, you can see there's kind of a yellowing, see-through-ish of the leaves. But for the most part, they look really healthy. Like this one doesn't have that problem. Tons of beans on it. So when they're about this size, so I'll zoom back. That's about when you want to see the flowers. I wanted it usually we get a couple inches taller, but again, I think I was a little lazy on getting my nutrients correct. But anyway, I love this green bean. It has really small beans inside and they're really thin. I kind of like to think of it like a French green bean. And I just love the flavor, and they're very productive. They only produce once though. So they're going to do a huge flush of green beans. You could get a second harvest, but it's not very productive. And so I will replace the plant with a new one. But yeah, these are great. Love these. So I love green beans. So that's why I have 6 of them. All right, guys. So we're going to take a look at the tomato garden over here. So I talk about cucumbers a lot, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it today, but I actually do want to show you my new lavender. So I'm forgetting what variety of lavender this is. I'll put it up on the screen. It already has a flower head on it. I don't know if in the wild it produces a flower in its first year. This thing's only about a month and a half old. I actually have 2 in here, unfortunately, because I just never got around to trimming them out, but I think I'm going to leave it and see what happens. But I do have the lavender, and yes, they do hit the top, but they're fine. Okay, the rest of this is my cucumber. I'm not going to talk a ton about the cucumber because I already do that quite a lot in my other videos. I think in my last video I talked about it quite extensively. But just a really quick synopsis. This cucumber is pretty old, so it's starting to look, you know, a little ragged. That's what this is. It is 2 stems. I don't know if I can show you guys easily. So if you see, there's one to the left and one to the right. So I only do 2 leaders or stems off of the main stem, and I find that the cucumber is the most productive that way. It's still producing some. This is what your cucumber leaves should look like when they're brand new. So full green, you shouldn't be able to see like dark veining or anything like that. This is a really healthy leaf. I did have some issue in my last video, but this is what it should look like. And then I do have that one cucumber. It's almost ready, but just needs to be a little bigger. These cucumbers are smooth, there's no spines, and the seeds are really small, and it's parthenocarpic, which means it pollinates, it doesn't need any pollination. However, this cucumber is a little older and stressed because it's just of its age, and it's starting to produce like massive clumps like this. These are male flowers, actually. This is the female flower. You can see the cucumber behind it. Here's the male. See if I can pluck one off. So there's no cucumber behind the male flower, and you don't need to pollinate these, but generally you would have to take the the pollen from the inside of the male cucumber and place it into the female cucumber. Generally when this happens, what I'll do is I'll actually pull a lot of this off, like all of this. I'll just go crazy and like take all this down until there's like, I don't know, one or two. That's another male. So is that. Yeah. So I'm just kind of plucking those off. Okay. So I'll clean all that up. You don't really have to. The plant will actually naturally drop them on its own. So here's an example. So as it's producing cucumbers further around on the plant, it'll actually naturally shrivel up old ones and they'll die, and that's fine. But I have them producing, like if you look back here, see it's kind of starting to, that's one right there. So it's starting to develop some other cucumbers, and it'll make that decision on its own. You can kind of help it along, like it made that one shrivel. This one's looking pretty healthy, so that one might start, we'll see. But yeah, so you can help it along. I usually don't, oh, like there's one right there. And a lot of it is if you don't harvest these mature cucumbers, they won't produce these ones. Like these ones won't get mature properly. So it's good to keep harvesting. Now this is an example. Do you see there's 3 cucumbers on this node? I probably will remove some of those just so I can focus the plant's energy on just 1 or 2. So I'll just pluck it off. You know, just to make sure that the cucumber is putting the energy in where it needs to. But yeah, it's still going. Here's my 2. You actually see them side by side. The 2 ends of it, I actually wrap it all the way around multiple times around the garden. And I also use hooks. I don't know why I clipped them this direction, but whatever. They're supposed to be flipped around. But I clip hooks with strings, and it keeps the cucumber. Oh, there's another one that's going right there. It keeps the cucumber up off the tray, and it keeps it dry too. I kind of like the look of it. Kind of makes it more full back there. All right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and take a peek at the tomatoes, and I'm going to turn the camera around. Okay, so here we are with the tomatoes. So there are 5 tomato plants total. I don't like to overcrowd the system. So I usually have, in this system, there's 1 tray, but then there's 3 lids on each tray. Each lid has 4 holes, or you can buy a tray top that has more. I don't really use those because I grow big plants. I have 1 cherry tomato per lid. So 3 on this shelf. I never grow more than 3. I just find that they overcrowd each other. When they're really stuck together, they get moisture built up in there, and I just don't find them as productive. I like to have plants that have a lot of fruit on them, and same with lettuces, a lot of leaves, big full lettuce plants. Like I said, I think that's just because my nutrients are a little low. I'll test it after this video. But yeah, so I only like to have 3. Now let's talk about, I'm not going to talk much about the 2 red robins. They are just great dwarf cherry tomatoes, love them. They have a really good flavor. I will say hydroponic tomatoes don't have that same, I don't know, it's hard to describe, that same like, they're not mealy for me unless they've been in there a long time, but they don't have that same like sun ripened crispness, but they do have a really good crunch on the skin if you don't let them sit. Again, it's good to harvest them on time. The longer you let hydroponic tomatoes sit, they actually will split because they're in water. The splitting comes usually from the roots. Excess amount of water, usually it's from rain. So if you let it sit, they don't really get mealy, but they'll get a little like the skin won't stay as crisp. You know, you won't get that nice pop that you might like with cherry tomatoes. So definitely harvest them on time. Okay, so the other one I have back here is a rosy finch tomato. And it is actually getting a little bigger than I thought it would. It's hitting the lights too, which is fine, but I do have my trellis here, which technically I could move, but I do like it because I tie string up to it in case plants flop over. So what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna eat one of the red robins to remind myself what that one tastes like right now. And then we're gonna eat this rosy finch. So here is one of the rosy finch tomatoes. This is actually the one I'm gonna pluck off. Ooh, it's still a little green, but I wanna show you. It has like this pink color to it. Can you guys see that? Here, I'll compare it with another one. Let's see. Let's grab a nice big red robin one. It's hard to tell which one isn't fully red or orange yet. I'm trying to get one that's red. Oh yeah, that one came right off. Of course it has green on it. It must have just fallen off. Okay, let's get another one. Actually, you know what? Let's just get one I harvested. That would make more sense. Because those are the ones I picked. I'm like, wait, why are there no tomatoes on this plant? Oh, they're in the bowl. Okay, so perfect. Here we go. Let me move this. I'm going to knock this nursery over. It has water in it. Okay, so here is the red robin, rosy finch. Wow, it's really hard to see. Yeah, you guys can't really tell. And honestly, in person, it has a bit of a pink hue, but it's not much different pink-wise. And also the adult tomato itself, or not adult, but like the fully ripened one. I'll take a photo and put it on the screen. I think that might work better. Look, they look almost identical. I don't know. Not super thrilled. Oh my gosh, I just forgot which one it was. Okay, I know. Red robin, rosy finch. Okay, so I'm gonna try the red robin first. Still really good tasting. Okay, now for the rosy finch. Oh, it's slightly sweeter. It's almost identical. It definitely had a slightly sweeter flavor to it, but here's what I'll say about it. It's not exactly what I was hoping for. Oh, guy fell. So I'm not going to grow it again. I might, just for fun. But the tomatoes are pretty large. And I don't really want huge tomatoes. That's pretty big. But anyway, it's not as mind-blowing as I was hoping for. The ones on the bottom shelf I'm a little more excited about. Okay, so yeah, I don't know. It's okay. It's pretty. It has that like pink look to it. Like I said, I'll take a picture and show you guys. All right, so let's talk about the bottom shelf. So I think what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to I'm going to talk about it now and then I'll turn the camera around. Okay, so the first one I have is a puck tomato, like a hockey puck. And it is a mini slicer. The tomatoes are about this big. And the leaves look terrible. Okay, so I'm not judging it because generally the older a tomato gets, at least from what I've noticed in hydroponics, the leaves look a little weird. But keep in mind, my nutrients were totally messed up in this garden because of those liquid nutrients, so don't judge it too hard. The tomato next to it's looking a lot better. It's having some of those same issues though with the leaves starting to get like this weird rust color. It never really matters much. I don't actually have rust in here. It's just has something to do with pH or EC or something. But the tomatoes always taste great and look great. The actual tomato. And the leaves mostly look good. The other one here is a cherry tomato, and it's called a dwarf mocha. So this one is actually going to get bigger than this tray here. It's going to get taller than where this tray is. So it's going to go out the side over here, if you guys can see that where my hand is. So I have this trellis removed. I actually, in a minute, I'll show you. I tied it with string to try and train it out the side, and I'll keep doing that as it gets bigger. So let's go ahead and turn the camera around, and I'll show you guys what these look like. Okay, so here is that puck tomato. I know, ignore the leaves. They look terrible. But isn't that pretty cool? Just to give you an idea of the size with my hand. And it's pretty small compared to the height that this could get. Again, don't judge it too hard. My nutrients were really messed up. That baby tomato just fell off. I think it's kind of getting near the end of its life. I'm going to redo this one. But isn't that just, I'll tell you in person, that vibrant red is a little more orange. It's coming across on the phone on my camera. It's very orange. It's not quite that, or very red. It's not quite that red. But I'm really excited to try this one. This would be, I think, a really fun mini slicer for if you just want a single one for a sandwich, or maybe one salad and you want to slice it and not have to store half a tomato in the fridge, which I don't really like to do. I like to eat them fresh. But yeah, see, it's just not see how that attached. It's just, these guys are fine, but I think the plant is done based on me screwing my nutrients up. But yeah, I love this cluster. Now for productivity, I can't judge it too much because again, I messed up my nutrients. So let's try this one again without the craziness with my nutrients, and I think it'll be better. But I'm really excited to try these ones too. Okay, let's look at a tomato that actually looks a little better. Okay, so this one is my mocha, dwarf mocha. Let me get my paintbrush because I need to pollinate it. Okay, so this is that cherry tomato, dwarf mocha. And let's like zoom back and you can kind of see how big it's already getting. It's gonna definitely have to go out the side. And I knew that before I planted it, which is why I put it over here so it could, you know, poke out the side. But it's pretty productive. Like it has a lot of flower clusters. Like there's one here, there's one in there. There's actually a tomato starting to form on one of these clusters here. Very tiny tomato. And then there's some back there, but it's a lot of leaves. There's a lot of flowers, but not a ton. I'm just using my paintbrush to move some of the pollen around on the flowers. There's one down in there too. And then let's get that one back in there. I just want to do this while I'm thinking about it because I'll forget. Sometimes I'll also shake the plant as well. There's a flower like tucked up in there. There we go. And I might also pull this off, but it also is attached to another cluster, so I'm kind of hesitant to pull this. I usually don't like having leaves sitting like this on the tray. But anyway, so that's my dwarf mocha. I'm excited about this one because it's just as it says. It's going to have like a dark purple color for the cherry tomato. So if I really like this one, then I might grow this one instead of this puck one, which let's see if you guys can kind of see that pink. See that kind of pink hue? See how they're like pink? See that? Here's what the other ones look like, but it's so similar. It's hard to tell on the camera. But anyway, I think I miss having a jalapeno down here. I usually grow, there we go, put the paintbrush down. I usually grow jalapenos down here. So I don't know. I'm not sure how I want to use my space moving forward, but I really wanted to try this one. Isn't it? The green is just beautiful. This one's really pretty. So, all right. So I just want to show you guys the tomatoes, but that's pretty much all there is for now. I'll update you on this one once it's ripe. Maybe I'll do a mini video because I think it's going to ripen between garden tours, and then I think this one will be ready for our next garden tour. At least maybe one tomato, I'm hoping, about 30-ish days. We'll see. That might be too soon still. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap it up. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me. So I hope you enjoyed the garden tour today. I know that some of it looks a little not fabulous, but it's looking a lot better than it did in the last tours. If you want to go check that out, I think it was the last garden tour. I don't know if it was the one before that too. I think it was just the last one. You could really see like the cilantro and everything looked really bad. But I do these videos every month, and I also will come out with some other videos as well. Like I want to do a video about the modifications I made to the garden because a lot of people ask me about my trellis, which you can kind of see it behind me. It's that like white, and this right here, and some other things too. I'm also going to be moving to a house in March, and we'll do some outdoor gardening videos too, but I will still have the hydroponic systems. I just don't know where they're going to go in the house yet. So hopefully there's a good spot for them. I guess we'll see. But yeah, so stay tuned. But also I'm a teacher, so sometimes I can't get the videos out more than once a month. Usually around the holidays, I can start to film a few more. So hopefully you're okay with that. And thank you for being patient as you wait for some videos to roll out. All right. Thanks so much for stopping by. Bye, guys.